Dragons! This is Justice Stemmons here, and I'm reporting live from Project 3319. This is my review of Dragonstone, the first episode of Game of Thrones Season 7. Oh my god. Okay, so the show just ended. I had a real big rush to get this, First off, let me get this out of the way. Great episode. Great episode. Great opener for the season. For those of you that want a non-spoiler review, look, it's great. A lot of storylines that you need to see, you'll see. A lot of the great music you want to hear, you'll hear it. It advances enough, and it cuts off right where you want, like 15 more minutes. It's fantastic. So that's my quick review for those who want the non-spoiler review. Go see it. If you haven't watched Game of Thrones yet, you can start this episode. I'll say you can start with this episode and then finish watching and then go back and watch the rest. But, this is a good place to start. So that's my quick non-spoiler review. Now, to the spoiler-filled review. Goodness gracious me. Okay, so let me start off by saying, I'll tell you a quick story. Round trip to get to the start. I got home today and, my Uverse was not working. And it didn't click until I was in the shower later where I was like, gosh darn it. If my Uverse ain't working, that means I can't watch Game of Thrones later tonight. So I set about doing what I could, within what I know, of making sure it was working right. And it did start working right a little while later. And I took a nap and woke up right before it got on. And I just turned on HBO HD and then I started watching. And it was glorious. I was freaked out at first, but, I got to see it. And I recorded just so I can watch it later. What happens in this episode that's really cool? A lot of cool things. They knew when they made this episode that we've been away for a while. We've been away for a little bit over a year now. So, it's great to see that they came back, and they came back in full force. They didn't give us a little, something to chew on. They gave us a good piece of stuff, just to, bring us back up to speed, make us remember. And there's a lot of remembering, if you've seen the previous episodes, that you will have to do through this. It starts off with Arya, and she pretty much finishes off House Frey. In the last season, she killed the head of the house, the weird guy with his, daughters. And she finished them off last season. And then this season, she pretty much finishes the rest of them, with a whole drinking thing and poison. It's really good. And all the girls get to live. It was great, because, they didn't do anything wrong. But, that house is finished. House Frey is pretty much done with. Outside of the females, they'll keep the house alive. But, they aren't going, to do anything negative anymore. They aren't going to, hurt people, twisting people's arms and all that, killing off the characters we love. They aren't going to do that anymore. It feels like they're not going to be involved for the rest of the next 2 seasons. And then it goes into Jon Snow, where he's at. Back home, they're having discussions about what to do, making preparations, training the soldiers. Little Lady Mormont, she gets to say a few lines. It's really cool. They're basically talking about preparing for these White Walkers, training, finding the Dragonstone that they can. And it's really good. What builds here is that Sansa and Jon Snow are, trying to find that little balance between leadership. Jon Snow's the military man, so he can lead there. And, I keep saying a lot. Sansa is the one, she's been around the world. She knows people. She knows Cersei. She knows how she is. And she tells him, Cersei is out to kill you. And she will not stop until that happens. And she will not stop until she kills me too, because she still thinks I killed Joffrey. Yeah, that. So, Jon Snow, she questions some of his leadership tactics on the field and everything, but, he will not stand for that. And he's not going to shame other families for the mistakes of their fathers. He's not going to put them down, remove them from the rank, as he swears in 2 young people who are pretty much the big heads of their families now. So, of their houses. So that's where it goes from there. And then it goes on to Cersei. And Cersei, it's at this point that I start to realize everyone's dressed really darkly. And you'll notice it throughout the show. Everyone's, as opposed to the first season where there's different colors and the Lannisters are usually wearing red and yellow. It's a lot of blues and browns with the House Stark. and there's all those different like colors, and it was really easy to tell the difference between each houses. And here on this episode, with it looks like it's going to be going for this season, everyone's dressed like really darkly. There's little things that help you tell, like, oh, there's a fly in here. There's little things that'll help you differentiate houses on their outfits. The wolves on Jon Snow's gear. There's like lion stuff on Cersei's. There's on Daenerys's. There's little dragon stuff and there's stuff in her hair. It's a really great costume design. Really great. What it reminds me of, it makes me think, if you had told me, and I did not know what I'm watching, if you had told me this is Marvel 1607, where they got the X-Men here, and they're all dressed in all the black, but, there's little things that can tell the characters, I believe you, because everyone's dressed pretty darkly. Could be a winter thing, could just be a, hey, the great games are happening now, and the great games are terrifying. It could be that thing where it's like, okay, this isn't a next big war, or it could be just because winter is here. So, I should have opened my show with that. Winter is here. Anyway, but seriously, she's going over the plans and she's trying to figure out what she needs to do. Talking to Jaime Lannister, and he's telling her, look, we are not strong right now. The Tyrells have what we need, and we can't go to them. And there's other families that have what we need, but we can't go to them either. We can't feed the horses that we need, and we can't feed the soldiers that we need. At this point, Euron of the Ironborn, he is called upon by Cersei, and they have a little bit of a talk, the heads, and they're like, all he wants to do pretty much is, as he tells her, is kill his deserted family. The one, Reek, and his sister. So it's one of those things where it's like he wants to get back at his family for leaving and betraying him. I wish I remember these characters' names like the back of my hand. But, the ones that left with Daenerys, he wants them executed. He wants them dead. And he wants to marry the most beautiful woman in the world, which he says is Cersei. And Cersei says, you have turned, and as Jaime Lannister says, he's questionable of it. And they have a little bit of a back and forth because, Jaime was the greatest warrior of all time. And Euron makes a joke about, yeah, I'm great, and I got two hands. And you just see Jaime just get real irritated. And it's really cool. But after that, Cersei says something to him along the lines of, I need proof that you will be at my, help my house. I need proof that you won't turn on us. And he says, I will go out and get you a gift, a small little gift, and I will not return till I get it. What it alludes to, and when he said that, in my head, my thought was, oh, he wants to get her something that she really wants. What she really wants? She wants Tyrion dead. So he might be going after Reek and his sister. I remember her actress's name, Gemma Wilhelm. He's going after them because Tyrion's with them, and he, that's the gift. That's in my head. That's the gift that he's going to give her, or attempt to, and that is a whole thing, because Ciri feels like, in pro wrestling terms, Ciri feels like the transitional champion. She is the Bray Wyatt circa post-elimination chamber. She is the one where it's like, in this whole thing, in this whole great war, Cersei is not the one where we believe, for the most part, that, oh, she's going to be on the top of this. When it's all said and done, Cersei's going to be on the throne. Nah, most people think it's either going to be Littlefinger, Daenerys, or Jon Snow. That's pretty much what most people are pretty much thinking. Cersei is the one that's going to hold it, and a lot of people think she's not going to make it out of the season. I think she might, but I don't feel like she's going to be on this. I don't feel like this show is going to end with Cersei on top. I just don't. And it's really interesting to see where this goes from here, and how long she will maintain this, and how whatever everyone else is dealing with will affect that, because she still has no concept of the White Walker's existence. That's really cool. So it's a weird thing. And then after that, I believe it goes into Sam Tarly, because he's, here to become a Grand Maester, and he's doing his thing. And it's really like, wow. Like, because he's like got a, care after people. He's got to clean the buckets that fill up the poop. You know, and he's got to go feeding people, and this stuff looks like the poop. And they do a thing that they haven't done on Game of Thrones yet. And the style of editing, what they did with these scenes, it was just about quick cuts, rhythmic, and it was like over and over and over again. And it's like he's got clean it, and he's getting, and it's like it doesn't like repeat fashion. Then by the end, you're like, this stuff it's like oh, you might as well not even feed this food to these people up here, because it just comes back out the same way it looked when it went into them. Like you might as well cut out the middleman and just pour that down the damn toilet. So yeah, you see he's not doing so well right now, but he feels the calling. He was told by Jon Snow, go figure out how to fight these things. If there's something there, find it. And he does, and he makes a big discovery that apparently there's a mountain of dragon glass, the stuff used to fight the wall. The only thing that apparently in the show can get him, that can kill him. So he's found it, and he's sent the letter to Jon Snow. And there's a scene, and this jumps to the Sam scenes pretty much. Jumps later on, and he's doing something, and he comes across a sick person, and they ask where Daenerys is, and he's like, okay, she hasn't arrived yet. And the hand is like, it's like a hand. All you see is like a hand reaching out for help, and it's like in the shadows. And when it pulls back is when Sir Jorah, because the hand is really like Dark Man, like all burnt, and it's like it's horrifying, and it's like no, because it's like you feel he couldn't find the cure, and he's sick now. He's fighting, he's still there. Jorah is still there. That's the good thing. He hasn't completely turned, but this does not spell good things, and it's really frightening. And it's like, because Jorah's a character that I think I like, I know a lot of people like, and it's like, dang, Captain Friendzone is, he's not feeling so well right now. Hopefully they find a way to fix that. And we see Arya later on, and this scene was a little bit weird, where she comes across, I think this is Ed Sheeran, and they're singing, and it looks like these soldiers from the Lannister army, I believe. These young soldiers in there. She sits and talks with them, and they share their meal with her because she's on a long journey. She basically they ask her, what you're doing, and she's like, I'm headed to kill the queen, and they all laugh because they're like, they don't believe her. But no one ever believes Arya, and she's probably one of the most vicious killers in the kingdom. So there's that, and there's a scene that took place earlier in the episode where it's just like the White Walkers just walking towards something, and it's frightening, just as frightening as any scene you've seen. Like I said, these White Walkers, it's like I said, I'll quote, give credit to Mark Bernardin on this. Look him up, M-A-R-C, Bernardin. He said this, he's like, zombies are like weather. They'll storm, their mass will dissipate, things like that. But you've never seen zombies with a purpose, and that's what these White Walkers are on this show. They're zombies with a purpose, and you see the army is just walking in the cold. And then the worst fear you could possibly have for these characters, because they're the ultimate darkness that's coming to take over the realm. And the worst thing you want to see is like, there's not one, not two, but at least 3 White Walkers that are giants. Like and it's like, oh no. And one looks like the one that died at the end of last season, because it's like Eye is like, Eye is out because Ramsay Bolton shot it out, and you're just like, no, that's not good news. You don't want to have to go up against the Undertaker on SmackDown. You don't want to have to go up against play defense on Yao Ming. You don't want that. You don't want to have to get in the ring with, I don't know, Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman. You don't want to have to do that. You don't have to go up a big, massive threat like that, because the Giants, as we've seen on this show, are powerful, almost unstoppable. So it's like, God, like if the fact that they're already dead, it wasn't scary enough. Now you got giants, 10 to 12 foot, 15 foot creatures walking around with this army, and it's just like, wow, this army of ice, they ain't playing no games. And Everything. He's like, you know what? I almost quit. I just, well, big fella, I ain't coming for that. I ain't coming for that, big fella. So yeah, it's the fear is there. The fear is real. And then flash out a little bit later, we see Daenerys, and she reaches her home. She reaches where she came from, and it's a great scene because she's there. She puts her hand on the sand. She's finally on land after sailing for such a long period of time. And Yara Greyjoy, that's Gemma Wilhelm. That's her character, Yara Greyjoy. I love Yara. I can't remember her name for the life of me when I started this video, but she goes there. She's at home, and Tyrion's there too, and her whole group is there. But they don't say anything. No one really says anything, and it's like dark shadows and dark hallways because no one's been there for apparently a lot of years. And she gets to the throne room, and she goes out to see the city, and you see the dragons when they sail there, and it's always that score. The score is so epic, and it's cinematic. Like, this is probably the most cinematic show I've ever seen in my life. Like, even more cinematic than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, and it's like the score is absolutely beautiful throughout the show. Absolutely beautiful. And it cuts at the end of the episode. It cuts, and it's like, this is where you want like another 15 to 20 minutes, and she stops, and she's like, Daenerys just stops, and she just turns and at Tyrion, she's like, "Shall we begin?" And it just cuts, and it's like credits. Oh my god, it's like, give me 20 more minutes, dang! Because the episode's like, the episode's pretty long. It's a full hour, but it's just like, just give me like 20 more minutes. I just want to see, But oh my god, yes, more of that, less of everything else. But goodness gracious, it was phenomenal. That was a phenomenal episode. I'm trying to think if there was anything else throughout the episode that I missed. Like I said, you see the characters that you want to see. You see the characters that you need to see at that time. There's a lot of, I'm fairly certain there's a lot of surprises they still need to have. I almost forgot. The Hound, he has a scene with the warriors, with the one that brought back from the dead, with the sword of fire. He has a scene where he goes. They stop at like kind of looks like a house out in the fields, and he doesn't want to go in. And it took me a moment, and it was like, okay, he knows this house, he recognizes it or something. And you see like a child and a father skeleton. They pretty much are there and died, and see how they died and everything. It's pretty much abandoned and cleared out. And it's like, it's at that point I kind of clicked. I was like, oh, I remember this. If this is what I think it is, because he buries the bodies later on. He says a prayer that best as he could figure, and he says, "I'm sorry you're dead. You didn't deserve this." This is the one from season 4. Yeah, season 4, where he and Arya went and they said, "Oh yeah, we'll help you," and then they pretty much deserted them. He deserted them. He screwed them out of their own thing because he's like, "This is how the world works." And that daughter and that father, that they had nothing. They had nothing left. It was like for him to survive, and Arya to survive. He took what they had, and it's sad, and they had to die, and it was like, and he came back and he felt remorse for it. He felt literally remorse. So this is a slightly different Hound than we've seen. This is a Hound that and during that whole scene there, he sees the army of the dead in the fire. He sees it, like they show him the fire, and he sees the wall, the army of the dead, and he sees it all. And at that point, you're like, okay, all this stuff, how the Lord of Light brought that man back 5, 6, 7 times, is like, for whatever reason, questioning of God and everything like that. At that point, he believed, yeah, there's something more than man out here working at work now. And what their story, what happens there, that's something's there that we still don't quite know yet. But there's a reason for those characters to be around. There's a reason they're there, and we still haven't figured it out yet, but we will, I'm certain. And then, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, it it was a good scene. It was one of those things where it's like, yeah. And we see, like I said, we see Gwendolyn Christie's character, Brienne of Tarth, and she's helping Podrick to train, which is cool. I always like Podrick. I always like Brienne of Tarth. She's a great character, one of my favorite characters. And we see Tormund, Giantsbane. You know, he's still got the hots for her, and it's just like, oh my god, that sounded old when I said that, but he's still looking at her like, hey, yo, because I like that character too. Tormund, he's really awesome. His free folk, they're going to be the watchers on the wall now. That's what Jon Snow's orders of laying out the land. The free folk are pretty much going to be the watchers on the wall. That's the other scene. Bran and the lady that's been helping him, they finally reached the wall, and they reached one of Jon Snow's friends, who looks like, I can't remember his name. I'm gonna say he looks like Neville. He like Adrian Neville from WWE. She's like, who are you? And he's like, he tells him, I'm Bran. I know what you've seen. I've seen what you've seen. And they bring him into the wall, and you know that's gonna set up for something. And like I said, you know, all this is revolving around, you see the pieces at play that know the real threat. And then you see the pieces at play that don't know the threat, that don't know the real threat, because they're still worried about their little thing. You know, and you see Littlefinger and his whole, he's still, you know, he's Littlefoot's a wild card. He's a wild card in this whole thing. Oh, Littlefinger, I should say. But it's like, oh my goodness, like, it is phenomenal. This show is really good. And like I said, every piece we needed to have set up is set up. All the pieces that in priorities, all the pieces we need to see set up are set up. Little things throughout the season, I'm sure, will happen. And you know, like we said, we only have 10 episodes a season. I think it's like 7. So, wow, it was like, make every episode count. That's all I wanted, and they're making this. They made the first one count, and I can't wait for next week and see what happens there. So that's my review of the Dragonstone, the first episode of Game of Thrones season 7. What did you guys think about the episodes? Tell me in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit a like button, subscribe, and share. You can follow me on all the various social media networks at Justice Stemmons, except for Facebook. You know, guys, thank you for watching my video. Winter is here. The dragons are flying. Game of Thrones. I'll see you guys soon.